Hello and welcome to another video. I am super excited about today's video. It's one I have been thinking about filming and planning for a long time and just haven't got around to doing yet. But today is the day. This is a video I love watching as well because I think everyone gives different tips and I love it for that reason. This is a video about how to read more books, but also how to read more meaningfully and how to kind of get more out of what you were reading. So I love reading, obviously. What a statement. And I have a lot of books. What a statement. And sometimes I am all up for some slow, no rush, just peaceful reading. Other times I want to read more and I want to feel like I can get through as many of those books on my TBR as possible and just really embrace everything I have in this room to be able to consume as a piece of fiction and just read as many of them as I can. And on those days, I want to be able to try and read more. And that can sometimes be difficult, it can sometimes be daunting, but also on top of that, I want to read more meaningfully and I want to get more out of the books that I'm reading. I want to say more interesting things when I'm talking about my opinions on books and not just say, they were really good, I like this character, the setting was aesthetic. Like, I want to be able to go into detail with my thoughts because I think everything I do should be constantly changing and I should be constantly learning, and that's what I want to be able to do with my literature and when I'm talking about books and when I'm giving verbal reviews. So this video is going to be how I intend to do that, but also how I intend to read more and how you can do exactly the same. So first up, one of the things that I want to talk to you about is actually a sponsor for this video, and this is an app called Basmo that I am obsessed with. I have been using this app a lot to help me with my reading. It's so cool. I'm gonna show you why I'm obsessed with it. So the app as a whole is a brilliant place to be able to log quite a few different things linked to your reading. You can log your reading sessions, so if you want to start a timer within the app and have a reading session which is logged, where you can also make notes on your book and review your reading experience, you can do that in the app. You can also have a list of all the books that you have read and you can see stats as well about how your reading is progressing and your kind of forecast for how many books you could be reading each month if you keep at your current pace and how many minutes a day you need to read to hit your overall reading goal for the year. It's a seriously cool app. I like the fact that you have got all this stuff that you can log, but also I like the fact that it's for you. This isn't a social media platform, this isn't somewhere that you've got followers and things, this is just for you, and I really like that because I think in the age of social media we share everything and it's quite nice that this is just your own references, your own notes, your own stats. So you can add what you're currently reading in. Now, I don't have a fiction in there at the moment because I just finished my last fiction book, so I've got The Women's History of the World in there, which is a non-fiction that I am incredibly slowly making my way through. But I did just finish a book called The Reader's Room, which was a really interesting mystery literary fiction. So I finished that one just now today and have purely read that book using this app. I started the book last night and using Basmo, I have tracked my reading experience and it's so interesting. I love it that you can see how long I've spent reading the book. I haven't read this book unless I've had the Basmo app open, so it's taken me 2 hours and 4 minutes to read The Reader's Room. I've also got like the notes that I took as I was going and how I felt, so towards the end I felt a bit more confused because we suddenly saw a very different side to a character. However, I felt kind of happy at the end of it. It shows you how many minutes I was reading for at a time, so I have done a 23-minute session, 6 minutes, 34, 44. It's just breaking it down as to each session that you set and how long that lasts for, and I love that. But I also love the fact that we have got stats. So this tells me I'm in the top 10% of readers and I have to read for another 150 minutes more to get up into the top 1%. I'm a competitive human being and I know I read for me and I know I just said this app is for me, but that makes me think, ooh, okay, I might do that. So if you've got a little bit of a competitive streak, I feel like this could really encourage you to read more because you'll be like, I want to get into that top 1%. It works for me in some kind of logical way in my brain, it definitely works for me. So I really enjoy the fact that we've got that capacity. You can also show your reading happiness, and this bit is the bit that I find really interesting. It predicts how many books you will have finished within each month going at your current rate. So for example there, by September I will have finished 109 books, which is really cool. So I really like those stats. And I like the fact that we can show goals as well. So today I've read for 65 minutes of my 28-minute goal, which is really cool. Shows you what streaks you've got going and just generally gives you access to knowing more about yourself as a reader. There is also a feature for you to be able to schedule time for reading. If you feel like you will excel more once you have a plan for your reading, you can schedule in time as well. So that is the Basmo app. Thank you Basmo so much for sponsoring this video. I genuinely love this app. It is so good. I'm addicted to using it, and I think if you are looking to read more, it's great for that kind of thing, but it's also great because of these reading sessions that you can log. And you can see that this is a reading session I logged earlier today. I was making notes. I was also taking a picture of the page on my book and logging that within the reading session and being able to talk about that. You can also take a picture of a page and it will scan it for text and create it as text within the app. There's so much it can do, but I think looking at reading more but also reading more meaningfully, this will certainly give you the means to write more about what you're reading and think about it more analytically and really share your feelings as you go along the way. So that's Basmo. That was my quick reading session that I had with Basmo as well. Generally, loving the app. I will link it down below if you want to take a look. It's so good. So on to my other tips. These are a mixture of tips to read more and also read more meaningfully. So one of the big ones I think that really helps me out is audiobooks. This is probably one you've heard before, but I just wanted to talk about the two platforms that I use as well. I use Audible and I use SCRIBD. I have affiliate links below for both of those. The SCRIBD one, I believe you get you get 2 months free trial, and I get 1 month off the back of that as an affiliate code. So that's linked down below, but SCRIBD allows you access to an unlimited library. I say unlimited because in the sense of comparing it to Audible, Audible is a credit-based thing, so you pay X amount of money for X amount of credits a month and you can buy books with those credits, whereas SCRIBD you've got access to the whole library. But if you read more than a certain amount of new releases within 1 month, then it does restrict you a little bit, but I've only ever had that happen once and I've been using it for about a year now. So audiobooks I think are a really good way to be able to read more because they're going to be able to be there for you when you're not able to physically read a book. So if you're driving and you've got something playing, if you're going for a walk, if you're doing cleaning around the house, if you're doing your washing, anything like that, they will be there to be able to guide you through that time with a literary companion when you can't actually physically pick up a book. I definitely think that they're a really good option. But also something I would say is good for audiobooks is if you're reading a book and it's slowing you down quite a lot, but you still want to read it and it's not a book you at all want to DNF, then it's really good option to be able to switch to the audiobook instead of having to continue to read the physical book. If you're able to get hold of it, whether it's on SCRIBD or on Audible, then that's a great option to be able to kind of pause the slump that you're heading in the direction of and just pick it up as an audiobook instead. I have done that more than a few times and that has helped me read a hell of a lot more. The next one I think is a big one because it's not necessarily that your reading pace is slow perhaps when you read, but it's the fact that your distractions are high. So for me, if I have anything around me that can offer a distraction, I cannot function with reading. I like to put a nice fireplace or an ASMR on in the background and have that as my background noise, but if someone is talking to me, if someone's got the TV on, if I'm in a cafe I can kind of deal with it because it's like ambient sound, but generally if there's anything like that I really struggle to properly focus unless I'm absolutely 0% interested or will never be interested in whatever is happening around me. I get distracted, which is difficult, which is also I think another reason I've been liking the Basmo app, because I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and I set myself a reading session and then I just leave it and let it go and don't disturb my phone, which is quite a nice feeling. I know that you can get the Forest app, for example, to stop you picking up your phone, but the Basmo app honestly is working quite well for me in that aspect. But I think removing distractions is a big tip, because it might not be that your reading pace is slow, it might just be that you're not reading for long enough to be able to get into the book. Depending on the book, I find some books I can just pick up every few minutes if I wanted to and just dive back in ad breaks on TV, for example, whereas other books I have to read them for like an hour to properly get absorbed into the story. So definitely alleviate distractions. Now this is another big one I think, and I know not everyone's going to be comfortable with this, but ditch or DNF the books you are not enjoying. Life is too short. If you are really hating a book and it is really slowing you down and you don't want to pick it up and you feel like it's slumping you, it's not one that you want to switch over to an audiobook, just DNF it. Put that book down. If you want to unhaul it, unhaul it. If you just want to put it back on your shelves, maybe you'll return to it later. Just put it away. There's no need to force yourself to read books unless you have to read a book for whatever specific reason you might have to read a book for. Life's too short, in my opinion. I know not everyone is comfortable with DNFing books and a lot of people feel like they want to know the ending. If that's the case, you could maybe ask a friend that's read it or you could look it up online, but I just don't think it's worth pushing through on a book that you're not really enjoying for really no reason, because we're here because we enjoy reading, we're reading because it's fun. if you're not loving a book, even if it's meant to be like the greatest book ever, even if you're worried about what it'll look like if you DNF it, you're meant to be enjoying it. Read for enjoyment, DNF the books you're not enjoying, and I guarantee you will read more. Off the back of that, I suppose this next tip kind of relates, but know your reading tastes. Don't feel like you have to be swayed by what someone is telling you you should be reading or would really enjoy. If you feel like that's not really what you want to read at the moment, don't read it. Pick up what you fancy and know your own reading tastes, but also don't feel like you have to read like all the really popular books or the books that have just come out. If you're reading something that is making you feel happy and it's a book that you've never heard of before, that's also absolutely fine. But I think also it can be easy to want to like certain genres more than you do. For example, I love fantasy, but fantasy is not my favourite genre. And I always thought it was, and actually I think my favourite genre is much more of like clever mystery type of books and thrillery things woven in. I always read those like so fast and completely absorb them. But for the longest time I said fantasy was my favourite genre, and it's like I was almost forcing fantasy to be my favourite genre. And I had to realise that like it's okay that it's not. I don't have to read a fantasy every month if I don't want to. I mean, I probably do, but I don't have to. And also, there's so many different types of books within that specific genre that actually, for me, I think I prefer like a contemporary fantasy as opposed to an old worldly fantasy. And it was kind of identifying my own tastes and what I really enjoyed reading to help me read more. But also, once you're reading books that you really enjoy and you feel like you really understand and get used to that genre, that's when you can read a little bit more critically, I think, and that's when you can take a bit more from those books, because the more you read of those books and the more you get to know your own taste, the more you're going to have to compare them to, and the more that you're going to be able to talk about them in a review context. This next tip is one that I personally find really helpful for me, and that is feel inspired to read by looking at other people around you that love reading. I know that can probably sound like a really strange one, but for me, watching booktube videos and watching booktubers read a large amount in a vlog, for example, or talk about the books they're really excited to read, or talk about the new releases that are coming up they can't wait for, makes me so excited to read. Like, makes me so motivated. As soon as I watch vlogs, I'm like, I want to read right now. I've got to read everything, throw all the books at me. It makes me really excited to read. The same thing with Bookstagram, when you see people talking about the books they've really enjoyed. I just think, okay, I'm going to put everything away and just pick up a book and really enjoy it. I find that as a huge motivator for me to read more. It really, really helps me feel desperately in the mood to read, because I'm seeing people enjoy it so much, and not that it reminds me, because I'll never forget why I love reading, but it kind of prompts me and it's like, hey, you like doing that too, why don't you go and read? So basically, if you're feeling a bit slumpy and you're not really fancying reading, I guarantee once you watch a couple of YouTube videos, that'll help you. And that'll help you, I think, get more out of your reading as well, because when you look at other people's opinions and see how they've read things, it almost shows you another way you can interpret things. Everyone is going to read books in different ways. You can read the same book as 10 people and you'll all read it differently. And I think when you watch people's videos, you get a different perspective on things, which is really important as well. So I think that's a huge aid as well to be able to reading more meaningfully. This next one, I suppose, is one that you could also get help with from the Basmo app. It does definitely aid a lot of things, I think, to be able to reading more, but that is setting goals. I know this won't work for everyone, and I know that some people deliberately set very small goals that they can achieve within like the first month of the year, for example, because they don't like the pressure of the goal. That's fine. I know this tip won't work for everyone, but whether that goal is like, I want to read X amount of books a month, a week, a day, a year, however you want to do it, or whether it's I just want to read for 30 minutes a day, sometimes having that goal can give you some sort of push to be able to achieve it. I think it depends what kind of a person you are and if you do thrive on that kind of thing. For me, I do, and if there's a reading challenge going on, I feel really excited to take part in it, and I feel, yes, this is going to motivate me to read more. So I do really enjoy that, and I think that's why I've attempted to recently start up having my own TBRs in my Fictionary TBR game. So I hope that setting those goals will really help me to feel more motivated to read. And finally, talk about / write about what you are reading. This will help you think more critically about what you're reading, and it'll also help you just feel like more involved in the book you're reading, and I think that is definitely going to be something to contribute towards you wanting to read more and also read more critically and read more meaningfully. When you write down your thoughts and feelings, it's going to force you to think about the book in a very different way than if you just read it and then put it down. I've recently started keeping a reading journal, but I'm also using Notion to be able to make notes about my books as well. And those two combined are really helping open my mind as to what I think about certain books and characters and plots and settings and themes, and it just opens the door for me to question myself about my enjoyment of a book and hopefully expand what I'm reading a little bit more as I write more and more critical thoughts, because I used to review every single book I read and I don't do that anymore because I started to fall out of love with it a little bit, but I hope that writing this reading journal will help me a little bit more go back to that critical way of thinking and be able to have those intellectual debates with myself about the book I've just read, essentially. But I think that'll help read more as well, because I'm writing down my thoughts and feelings, I'm having all these different ideas, and it's making me have that passion for why I enjoy reading so much. So those are all my tips, my 8 tips to help you read more. If you did want to find out any more about the Basmo app, I will link that down below. As I said, thank you so much, Basmo, for sponsoring this video. Thank you everyone for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up. Comment down below what your tips would be to read more. I'm always interested to hear what everyone else's tips are as well. And you can subscribe to see more of my face on your feed. My Patreon is linked down below, where I post extra content, including dedicated reading vlogs, podcasts, and a book club, much more fun stuff as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, keep smiling and stay positive.